Hello and welcome back once again to Rage Gaming, Elden Ring in a new build video. This time we're covering the much needed buff to Twinblades, specifically though in two-hand, which is kind of how they're designed to be used. These have always been extremely cool weapons since their original introduction, and now we have more options than ever when it comes to Twinblades. However, for most of Elden Ring's lifespan, using them in two-hand as they're designed wasn't all that good. Kind of best used in power stance for maximum DPS output using jump attacks. So these weapons needed some love in the two-hand mode. In patch 1.08, they had exactly that. For two-hand, they had speed of attack improvements and recovery improvements, which have benefited the Twinblades greatly. Further, this Ash of War, Loretta's Slash, had its own improvements. Now it has better recovery, so we can recover and do something after faster, and it's got hyper armor on that first bit, majorly improving the ability to land it. This works in great unison with the two-handed Twinblades, and combining these two, we're able to make quite an effective magic, ice, and burst-based build for both PvP and PvE. So let's jump in and start with the PvP side of things. So, PvP. In PvP, we do have a pretty nasty downside that we have lower poise with the Twinblade basic attacks, which is a vital change in this patch to make it so faster, smaller, lighter weapons aren't out trading with big heavy weapons, which makes sense. But it's something you have to acknowledge and be aware of. In Twinblade's case specifically though, the speed of some attacks has been improved and you've got the reduced recovery time, meaning you can combo into other things such as another attack, such as a roll or an Ash of War really well in this patch. If you're facing someone with lower poise, like someone wearing cloth, then you will absolutely destroy people with the basic light attack combo, how quick it comes out. If you're facing someone with higher poise, then using Loretta's Slash, the Ash of War, to trade, thanks to the improved poise on the first hit, that can be major in actually landing blows to someone that's really hard to trade with. Now in general, they have great movesets, Twinblades in two-hand, where this was all specifically improved. Many fast attacks on the light attacks, the heavy, charge heavy, can deal many hits in a quick go and do a lot of burst because of that, but then it also has awesome running light or running heavy attacks, which have a reasonable range compared to what you might expect. Trading for me then with these weapons using the basics is all about getting a running attack to stagger someone and catching someone out rolling around me by doing the many fast light attack combos and really punishing them. We can also swap to one hand to completely change out the pace of the attacks and also swap to a more thrusting style which does have a bit better range and that can catch people too. Of course the weapon has some ice stats benefits because of the affinity we've got it in using this Ash of War, and that'll deal damage, stamina reduction, and will take more damage while afflicted. So just a few hits and an ice pop can put someone in a really bad state. As you can see, if I do land a heavy attack when someone's trying to trade with me and they're not expecting the slower strike, and I've been doing a lot of light attacks, then that can be a massive punish, dealing many hits at once, bursting up because of the successive hits, an ice proc on top of that, and you can follow up thanks to your really quick recovery with a running attack or light attacks to finish that now low health person. Something you'll see me use not overly too much, but when necessary, is of course Loretta's Slash, the Ash of War of our choice. As I mentioned, it has better hyper armor at the beginning, and it also has good armor anyway at the second half, making it a great trading tool if someone tries to. But it also has reasonable range. You'll jump up in the air and then leap really far at a reasonable medium range, kind of addressing the shorter range of the basics of Twinblades in two-hand. It is hard to land in duels, but it combos well off of the basic combo and the better recovery we mentioned. So you could surprise someone by suddenly following up with this really big hyper armor after missing a light attack and they think they can punish you, but they can't. But it also tracks really well. It lasts a lot longer than people expect and it can turn heavily in midair, which works great in free-for-all, that's for sure. Now you will notice that I am using a couple spells here. We have Terra Magica where possible, which is ideal for standing because it can increase our magic damage by 30%. All magic damage that is, so that includes our weapon damage. And we're using the sorcery Star Shower for an incredible range harass, forcing them to come fight you at close range while you spam it in Terra Magica, which is where we want to fight at melee because we're further buffed up. The spell will deal good chip damage and it can actually deal a lot of damage if they're hit by half or the full thing even. Some people do fail to avoid it, not expecting it to be so quick. I find it ideal for finishing someone off who's low or catching someone who's running away at range, trying to buff, cast, or whatever. Of course, with the 60 intelligence we're running though, you could run other options if you wanna. You will see that I changed armor though in one of these duels and I went to that more heavy set. That's because we have very low poise using this armor set. Each piece will give us about 2% damage increase to our magic damage, but that doesn't help us at all if we are taking damage and can't trade because we have really low poise. So for PvP, I do swap to a more heavy set, as I'll explain later. The whole poise change is really good in general, forcing people to make more out of their builds, play in a less universal trading way. It's just a problem here with this melee build to run lower, lighter armor. So I recommend in PvP, you have enough poise to do even basic trading with whoever you're against. The only thing that I feel is lacking with Twinblades now in the current patch, for PvP specifically, is the range they have. In two-hand, you do have less range than poking or thrusting, so giving them like that tiny bit increase could be major, much like it was for say daggers, that was a game changer. For now, we talk PvE, where we swap to our PvE set, our PvE physic, and our PvE stats. Our main combo for bosses is to charge a full heavy and then follow it up with your Ash of War. This is a mega high burst combo. It does take a bit of setup to get the maximum of using Terra Magica and self buffs. You will sometimes need to settle for without all that then, because it takes a bit of setup, like I said, punishing only with a heavy or an Ash or whatever. The many hits of the strong attack will be fantastic, thanks to the many successive hits you'll build up, and that'll increase your AR with this build, meaning the follow-up Ash of War will hit like a truck, and it has all that hyper armor that it's pretty consistent to land. Not to forget the frost build-up pop that will occur, increasing your damage against those afflicted, great in PvE. Your AR will skyrocket from the successive hits for a bit longer than you might think, meaning you can go from multiple Ashes of War back to back after a heavy, especially when we consider all that hyper armor it has. That allows for very easy trading, and you can honestly blindly spam it, which is wonderful because it will, like many Ashes of War, stagger opponents and bosses, leading to a critical, or better, another full charged heavy follow up by Ash of War. This all still works though with basic fast combos, running attacks, and so on. Your goal should be trying to land many quick hits and then maximizing that damage by landing one big hit, such as an Ash of War. I found that works really well, pumping up my damage with basics and then trading over and over with the Ashes. I think this is great for Twinblades in PvE. They don't really care about the short range issue that we see in PvP. You're pressing up against the boss anyway all the time. The options we have in this build synergize really well, and we can change that how we want, should you want. So, speaking of which, let's go over the build. As you'll know at this point, there's two types of builds here. We have the PvP build and the PvE. I'm currently in the PvE, so we'll go over that first, and I'll reference the adjustments I would make personally for PvP. So, of course, we're running the cold Twinblade. That's right, as we talked about, we're running frost because we're able to scale with intelligence with that, increase the frost build-up because of that, and then we're consistently popping that frost. Of course, in PvE, that's really important because it makes the enemies take more damage, but it is useful in PvP as well. Of course, we're running the Finger Seal just as our option to do the self buffs for our incantations, but it's mainly about the Carrion Regal Scepter. This is the best option for in general. If you've got 60 int, you can run this, and it has the S scaling. And of course, if you're choosing to use any full moon sorcery, you'll increase the damage of that. Now, ideally, you'd be running the full Spellblade or Rogier set because of the benefits, increasing your magic Ashes of War, such as the one we're running, slightly by about 2% per piece. Now, in PvE, that's fine because we want as much damage as we can get. But when it comes to PvP, poise is really important this patch. As I've explained, it is vital that you have enough poise to trade with. If you don't have enough, say with a many hitting weapon like this, you're just not really going to land any blows. You want to hit multiple hits with this weapon, not just one, and so a bit of poise goes a long way. So in the PvP build, I'll run about 15 endurance, and that allows for the Carrion Knight armor in the chest and boots, and then I have the scaled gauntlets. And then we have that 2% increase from just the hat of Regier's hat. For our talismans, PvE wise, we have the Shard of Alexander, we have the Rotten Wing Sword Insignia and Millicent's Prosthesis. Both of these will increase our attack power as we land more successive blows, as we've talked about. And then the Axe Talisman is going to further improve the damage of one of our main attacks that we're using in PvE, the Charge Attack. However, I would replace that Axe Talisman with something like Erdtree's Favor for a bit of more equip load, health, and stamina. Or you could even run Great Jar's Arsenal to put more heavy equipment on to improve your poise. Alternatively, you could just go for more poise with the Bull Goat's Talisman. In the Wondrous Physic, we of course have the Magic Shrouding Cracktear because we're doing magic damage, but then the Thorny Cracktear to boost successive attack power even further. Though I personally swap that one out for the Crimson Bubble Tear in PvP and free-for-all and teamfights because that health is majorly helpful. When it comes to my stats then, we have in the PvE build, 50 Vigor to get some health but not maximizing at 60, 12 Mind to get us over the 84 FP threshold, which is required for our Ash of War spam, 11 Endurance with the Rogier set is fine, but like I said, I run 15 in PvP. Strength isn't leveled at all. Dexterity, we push as far as we can get, as close to 80 as we can get, though it's only 55 in this case. 60 Intelligence, as we've mentioned, and 25 Faith to use our buffing incantations. So those are of course Flame Grant Me Strength and Golden Vow, as always, whereas when we have the staff, we use Terra Magica, and I have that Star Shower that I was using in PvP. As I mentioned though, you could go for an alternative like some Full Moon Sorcery for PvE and range options. The key difference in your stats for PvP is having 60 Vigor, meaning we just have less dexterity, and that slightly increased endurance number to weather heavier armor. In conclusion, Twinblades find themselves in a much better position in this patch, in two-hand mode specifically, which is really how these weapons are meant to be played by design. Don't get me wrong, it is fun to use them in power stance and spam that double jumping attack, leading to very high burst in PvE, but this feels like how the weapons are meant to be used and played, and now it finally actually works. In PvE, it feels and looks incredible. I'm very pleased with it. Whereas in PvP, I do think it takes a bit of awareness of your sometimes shorter range, managing your poise, much like every other smaller weapon and lower poise build in this patch. But clearly, it still works, and most importantly, it's very fun. Let me know your thoughts on the build though, and if there's something you'd like to see us try next, then you can tell me in the comments. For now, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.